What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Horror, this is Ethan Horror, and today we are back with another video. Today we are jumping back into the Saw franchise. I've already ranked the movies before. Today we are going to be giving you my top 10 Saw traps. Now, if you guys start to notice that a lot of your favorites aren't on the list, it's because I don't like Saw traps that are unfair or set up to have the person killed. Like the Detective Carrie Angel trap, not on this list because it was unfair. She was going to die either way. Other traps that just involve someone being killed, I didn't want to put on the list because it's not a trap at that point because they can't really escape it. I didn't put any of those types of traps on this list, but I still found 10 very good ones, and so let's get into my 10 favorite Saw traps from the Saw series. Coming in at number 10, I have the bathroom trap from the original Saw. Obviously, it's iconic, it's classic. The only reason it's at number 10 is partially because I feel like it had to be on the list, and partially because it's not very good. Not that it's not very good, it's iconic, but I feel like it's very confusing, and honestly is one of the main reasons that I don't love the original Saw. I think it's good, but I mean, it's very confusing because you're presented with some rules with the tapes, and then Zep is introduced, and then it kind of changes all the rules that you already had preset in your mind that this is what they're trying to do to survive. It all changes. You don't really know what's actually going on for a while, but I think the baseline trap is that they need to escape. They're given hacksaws, and it's like the first thing that you see in the Saw series. They need to cut off their own foot to survive. And that's basically like the baseline Saw trap is like injuring yourself or mutilating yourself or just hurting yourself very badly to survive. So just the first time you get to see it happen, I think is it's great, but it's been done better. Number 9, we have another trap from the first Saw. It's the fan favorite. It's the reverse bear trap. Again, felt like I had to put it on the list. Like, even if I didn't think it was a top 10 worthy, I feel like I had to, just because it's so iconic. When people think of Saw traps, they think of the reverse bear trap. It is like the Saw trap, basically. And it is a very good one. And I think it might be the actual first Saw trap you really see, where Amanda wakes up and she has this contraption on her head that's in her mouth, and it will tear open her jaw like this if she doesn't complete her task within that time. And her task is she needs to dig a key out of supposedly a dead body. That's what she's told, but it is that the person is actually alive. So she does end up having to kill somebody to get the key out of their chest and unlock her bear trap. And she actually does do it. She survives, and I think it makes it a little bit better, like not better, but still like story-wise better, that she has to essentially cut herself off because she dealt with drugs, and so she's having to, and the person on the ground is her drug dealer. So essentially she's having to cut herself off because now she can't get drugs from him. And so I think that actually works a lot with like Jigsaw's themes of trying to rehabilitate them and appreciate life. Like, if we're going off of those themes, which I'm not saying Jigsaw's right, because he's not, but if we're going off of those themes, I think it fits it perfectly well, and it's one of the best examples of the Saw franchise, and that's why I think a lot of the traps in the first Saw movie are very good. And so reverse bear trap had to make the list, and it's my number 9. Coming in at number 8, I have the rack from Saw 3. Saw 3, not a great Saw movie. I think it was like, it might have been last on my ranking when I ranked all the Saw movies. But honestly, this trap is great. Now, do I think it's a bit stupid and unfair? Yes, but it is so hard to watch that I felt like I had to put on the list. So basically, this man is hooked up to this thing. It's wrapped around his arms, it's wrapped around his legs, it's wrapped around his head, and I was gonna say his other arm, but it's wrapped around his arms, legs, and head. And it is like pressed against him, and this is the man who had accidentally killed Jeff's son in a car accident. So Jeff is now presented with a task. So these things that are attached to the man will start to slowly turn and like twist his limbs and his head. And if he doesn't get this key out of the box before it twists around, then the man will die. And so Jeff, who this man has killed his son, or regardless if it was an accident, so that's why I kind of think it's a little bit unfair, because obviously Jeff is going to be less inclined to help this man who has killed his son, but still, so he needs to reach into a box, pull a key, which will ignite a shotgun that will, I don't think it'll kill Jeff, but he'll take a bullet for this guy, and he eventually doesn't do it, and we get to see the effects of the rack where it twists his limbs around and his head, and just, it's very hard to watch, very disturbing, and I think that's why I put it on the list. At number 7, I have the brain surgery trap from Saw X. Saw X is one of my favorite Saw movies. I know it's the most recent, and it's the 10th installment in the Saw franchise, but they saved best for last because, wow, I really liked Saw X. I think it ranked in my top 3 when I did the Saw ranking, so yeah, I really like Saw X, and this trap was the one I decided to pick from this movie because, well, I really like that it's kind of like him getting revenge, even though Jigsaw is definitely the bad guy in all of the other Saw movies, or all the other ones that he's in. He's getting revenge on these people who run a scam business that, like, can apparently cure cancer. And so this guy, who apparently is a brain surgeon, we learn later that that's complete BS, and he isn't. So John Kramer has put him into a trap where he has to perform a brain surgery on himself, and which I think is the absolute perfect thing when Jigsaw does these traps that proves their lie, or they would have been able to do if their lie was correct. Like, I think a great example is in Saw 3D, when there's the guy who is lying about having survived a Jigsaw trap, and he said he put the hooks into like his pecs because it would hold him, and then at the end he has to test that to survive, and it doesn't work. And a lot like in this movie, where he has to test his brain surgeon abilities, and he has to take a piece of his brain out, as like cut up the top of his head, take a piece of his brain out, and have it disintegrate. I don't know the word. Disappear in lavative acid. And I think it's a very good kill because of, obviously the person has lied about being a brain surgeon, so if he was a proper brain surgeon, he should have no problem with this. So, yeah, I really like the that part of it, but the only thing I don't really like is that it had to dissolve. That's the word. Found it. Had to dissolve in the acid, because it kind of felt like at that point that it was out of his control, but still, if he was actually a brain surgeon, he would have had enough time for it to dissolve. But still, great trap. Just a little nitpick, but it's a good trap. Coming in at number 6, I have Pound of Flesh from Saw 6. Some of these I might have the movies wrong. I was just going off of what I remember, and I'm pretty sure that Pound of Flesh is from Saw 6. And this one's a pretty simple one. You got 2 people trapped in separate rooms, and their goal is to cut off the most amount of flesh in the given time. I think they're given like a minute, and they have to cut off like parts of their body to put in, or no, is it a time limit, or is it just like whichever? I think it's most weight in a time limit. So there's this bigger guy versus this woman, and the bigger guy is cutting off like pieces of his stomach because he's got more mass to give. So he's cutting off like little piece of his stomach, throwing it in, another little piece, throwing it in, and then this lady, who obviously is a lot smaller, isn't doing anything until the very end, when she has like 30 seconds left. She just hacks off her entire arm and puts it into the thing and ends up winning, because obviously an arm weighs more than like 10 chunks of flesh. So I think it's a very good trap, but my favorite types of traps are where it's you doing it to yourself and you can still win. So in this trap, obviously one person isn't going to live, but I still really like the trap, and obviously there's a way to beat it, so it's a very good trap. Starting off our top 5 with number 5, we have the nerve gas house from Saw 2. This is basically all of it, like all the traps combined into one. You got like, I think it's like 10 criminals in a room with a boy who I think is revealed later to be the son of the officer who would put all of these criminals in jail, and they all have a poison in their, or no, is it in the, I don't remember, I think it's in the air, or is it in them? I don't know, but there's poison, and they need to find an antidote, and there's a bunch of different traps in this house. You got, I wrote some of them down, let me just find it, sorry, I just gotta look at my notes. Like, there is the razor box where you have to reach in, and there's razor blades so that once you go in, you can't pull your hand back out because of the razor blades. And there's an antidote in there, and there's the needle pit, and there's the shotgun eye hole. I don't know if that was really a trap or just a way to kill somebody, and then there's the furnace, which is the one I always remember. And there's all these different little traps for them to get the antidote that they need to inject it into them, and they will survive the gas. I've always thought this was a very good central trap plot for the second movie. I think the second movie is the best. Despite whatever my ranking said, I think I had Saw 5 at number 1, but I would definitely say Saw 2 is my favorite Saw movie, and it's partially because of this incredible central trap plot. Coming in at number 4, I have 10 Pints, which is basically the entire trap subplot. You'll understand when I explain it. So basically, a bunch of people wake up in a room. I forget what the first trap is, but so I think there's like 5 people. So is that right? 5 people in a room, and they're fighting because it's like set up that one person has to die in each room. And so every time there's one where they have to fight for a spot in in safety, because there's like nail bombs set up in the room, and they have to fight for a place for safety. So each room, another person dies until they eventually gets to 2 people in the last room, where there is, I think there's like, they have to donate 10 pints of blood. And if they had all 5 people, 10 pints of blood would be easy, because they each donate like whatever that would add up to, I don't know. And so it'd be easy, they would barely feel a thing. So it's revealed that like they all could have made it, because they were being selfish and assuming they weren't trying to help everybody else. They were just assuming that they were just being selfish and not trying to help, because if they were trying to save everybody, they could have saved everybody and everyone could have made it through. But it was revealed, well, I mean, it's not revealed that they didn't, because you watch them die. And this final task that they do both eventually end up surviving, because they both donate their 5 pints of blood. So I think it's a very good trap. This little last section is a very good trap, but the entire trap subplot is also very good, and that little twist reveal that they could have survived, which is why I really like Saw 5, but it is not my favorite Saw movie anymore. Coming in at number 3, I have The Silent Circle from Saw 3D. Probably my favorite part of Saw 3D, just because, again, kind of like The Rack, it was so hard to watch. And again, this one does feel a little bit unfair, because so there's a key lodged in this woman's throat with a fishing line coming up. And this man must, I forgot the lead character's name, so I'm just going to call him the man. He needs to pull the key up out of her... Don't clip that. He needs to pull the key up out of her throat using the fish line. And if she screams, then these pipes will go into her neck. So she has to be very quiet as he's doing this. And I forget why she needs to be quiet. It's because she, like, didn't speak up or something. Or maybe she was running. I don't remember. Dude, it doesn't matter. There's so many Saw movies. It's so hard to remember. I even wrote notes down about it, and I just don't, like, there's so much. But basically, if she screams too loud, the pipes will impale her in the neck, and she's gonna die. But otherwise, he's got to pull the key out of her throat and unlock the thing. He eventually, obviously, doesn't, because almost all traps end up with someone dying. So he doesn't get the key out, and she's impaled in the neck and dies. Spoiler alert. So every time I see the scene of him trying to pull it up out of her throat, there's only one other scene in this franchise that just really gets to me besides this one. This is the second hardest scene to watch for me. We'll talk about the hardest scene to watch in a little bit here, but like, it's just, it always gets to me. Coming in at number 2, I have the Venus flytrap from Saw 2. Again, Saw 2, back on the list. They got a lot of great traps in Saw 2, and the Venus flytrap is no different. I think this is the perfect example of what I love in a Saw trap. Like, obviously, I wouldn't wish this upon anybody, but as far as Saw movies go, I like traps where they have to do something to themselves, where it's just a test of, are you willing to do what you need to survive? Where it's not, you need to kill somebody else to do it. It's just, you need to, in this case, gouge out your own eye to get a key that is hidden in your head. And so this is what I really like, is when they have to do something to themselves and doesn't involve killing anybody else, and they have a fair chance at surviving. And so he has to he's given a knife, and he's told that there is a key hidden behind his eye, and he needs to, gouge out, I have glasses on, so I can't, he needs to gouge out his own eye, get the key out to unlock this death mask that is around his head. People call it the Venus flytrap because it has a big thing that comes out the front that has spikes on it, and a big thing that comes out the back that has spikes on it, and it's going to close around his head and impale his skull. I forget if he was successful or not. I don't think he is. I think he ends up dying, but it has always stuck out to me as one of my favorite traps just because of, the rules that Jigsaw has and the way that it's set up. Because, just thinking about having to gouge your own eyes out is such a horrific thought, that just seeing it and seeing his struggle and seeing how he eventually, I think he does try to, but it's too late at that point. But yeah, it's always stuck out to me as one of my favorite Saw traps, and that's why it's my number 2. Coming in at number 1, I knew it was going to be my number 1. Before I even started filming, before I even thought of this video, I knew it was going to be my number 1. It is the Needle Pit from Saw 2. And I know we already kind of talked about it with the Nerve Gas House, but I wanted to pick this one specifically just because, as I said, there is only one scene that is harder to watch for me than the Silent Circle, and it's this scene. Because if you want to know something about me, there's 2 things that can really make me squeamish. 3 things that can really make me squeamish. 1, fingernails breaking. For some reason, always gets under my, when it's dragged against a wall or something and the nails just break off, that is one thing that always gets me. Number 2 is bugs. I don't know why, they disgust me, they gross me out, and just the thought of bugs touching me always makes me just ew. And number 1 is needles. Needles they're so horrible to me. I just the not sewing needles, medical needles, the shot needles, syringes, just the super, the thin needles that, every time they show scenes in movies of people getting shots or people getting, sleeping, whatever. I just watched Rosemary's Baby last night, and there's a scene where there's literally a needle going into her arm, and I had to look away. So being thrown into a pit full of needles where you'll probably get impaled by like 50 of them, that is one of the worst possible things I could imagine happening to me. And especially because they're filled with so many random things, you could get so many random diseases. Um, and you need to sift through these needles, stabbing yourself with more needles to find a key. It's just, oh my god, I can never watch this scene because, as I said, terrified of needles, and just, like, especially because she gets pushed in. So she falls and is already getting stabbed by a bunch of needles, and I'm sure she broke some of them, so she's getting broken glass everywhere. And then she has to sift through all of the needles, which stabs her hands more, in a little time limit to try and find a key. She eventually finds the key, and they can move on, but this scene always stands out to me as one of the scenes in horror history that I can never watch. And it's because I have a fear of needles, so you guys know that about me now. And that's going to be it for today's video. Remember, if you did enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe so when you see my videos like it. Otherwise, you can go down below and hit the bell notification if you want to be notified when I post any brand new videos. Otherwise, you can click the video on screen to watch some more videos from me. But until next time, I'm Ethan Horror. This has been Ethan Horror.